Hi, my name is Alyssa. I'm a finance major and a junior here at Bentley University. Danene was nice enough to give us her elevator pitch, and we were wondering if you can give your elevator pitch as well.
Sure. So I work for Visa. You guys have probably heard of it. It's the largest payment network on the globe. And I believe every merchant should accept Visa because it is the way to pay and get paid that is the most efficient of any payment form on the planet. By accepting the card, you'll give yourself access to 3.5 billion consumers and businesses across the globe that use this product to pay for their goods and services in an efficient and effective manner. And by the way, I will tell you this, you hear the term elevator pitch, and I will tell you that once in my career, I actually was in an elevator and the CEO of a company walked in. I wasn't actually in the business to meet him, but walked in, and the elevator was on the 35th floor. And by the time it got to the bottom, I pitched him my product and service. He handed me his business card on the way out and told me that if there were ever any problems with his folks in the process of selling, that I should give him a call. We closed the deal within about 3 weeks after that. So anybody who tells you that an elevator pitch is pie in the sky, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's obviously in an elevator, but being ready to communicate at any time the value of the products and goods that you or services you sell is paramount, because that could happen anywhere and anytime. Just happened for me once in an elevator.
Hello, Danene. Hello, Roger. I'm Austin Marinosi. I'm a senior and a finance major. This question is for Roger. I just kind of knowing Visa and Amex. I noticed that your background also included an American Express, and I have a small business that I've been operating for 6 years now, and I use American Express. How did your elevator pitch change when you switched your career path to Visa?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it was ingrained in me. I spent 28 years at Amex. I sold about $300 billion worth of business in my career there. So it really took some time. The most obvious thing that took time was when I was talking on the phone and announcing where I was from. Imagine after 28 years, all of a sudden switching to the dark side and having to change that cadence. So that, I would tell you, was probably the most difficult thing. The good thing for me was that in switching, I sold against Visa for 28 years. So I knew their product inside and out. I knew their pricing. I knew their statistics, their market share, their strengths, their weaknesses. So it was fairly easy to make that transition. I guess the moral in that story is that in sales, I would tell you that no matter what product you're selling, you need to be an expert in that product. But whatever product that is, you need to be an expert in what it is you're selling against. Because if you don't know what the product strengths and weaknesses are on the other side, then it's very difficult for you to counter what those things are. American Express has strengths and weaknesses. Visa has strengths and weaknesses. Most products do at some point, but it's accentuating the positives of the strengths that usually get you your sale, not even referring to the weaknesses. So I would tell you that the change was facilitated by the fact that after I left Amex, I started a business. So I had about 1.5 years of kind of my own time to sell my own created product in that space. So it gave me a little bit of comfort when I did go to work for Visa, and I was kind of prepared at that point in time. But that's an outstanding question. And by the way, finance majors make great salespeople because understanding the economics of your process, product, and process are absolutely very useful in your process.
And not to take away from my classmates, but if I could have a follow-up question for you, why would you choose for, say, your business or to a small business, why would you choose Visa over Amex? What are the strengths and weaknesses in that?
Yeah, it's a great point. So Visa, you probably remember the ad campaigns, Visa everywhere you want to be. And literally that is the truth. The challenge that American Express has is that it isn't everywhere its consumers and businesses want it to be because of the pricing structure, and more importantly, because of the perception of pricing. Visa has the perception that it costs less. Amex has the perception that it costs more. When you get into the nuts and bolts of it, that isn't entirely true. It's the value of what each product delivers. So Visa does not have a pricing perception issue. In fact, the contrary, they have the advantage of businesses and consumers thinking it costs less. That's an advantage. That means you can have price elasticity. You can raise your prices when you need to and have even more revenue come in through your front door. Amex, on the other hand, doesn't have that. So raising price is a very, very temperamental thing for them. But the products and services offered by each company are outstanding. Amex has a very, very tight hold on the small business space. Visa has a robust product in the large market corporate space. Consumer, Visa has about 65% share of the market, where they dominate simply because of the member banks and networks that they have, and because there are so many merchants, 100 million merchants across the globe actually accept that card. That number is considerably less for Amex. It's strong in the US, but outside of that, they have challenges. So when you go to Indonesia, or you go to Japan, or you go to China, you're challenged to be able to use those products in those countries. Not with Visa. They have a very strong network abroad, have quite a robust international network. So those would be some of the strengths and weaknesses that I would identify.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you too.
Hello, Danene.
Hi.
Hello, Roger. So thank you to both of you for being here tonight. My question is, so I'm actually a firm believer that some of the biggest lessons in life come from mistakes. And I was wondering if you could share one lesson for both of you, one lesson that you've learned from some of your mistakes.
Sure. Oh, okay. I would say preparation. So there was a time earlier in my career where I wasn't as prepared for a client meeting as I should have been. So the questions that they asked me, I didn't have the best answers for. So now I tend to over prepare for everything, like ad nauseum, but I'm never caught flat-footed now. So I would say preparation.
Yeah, that's a fantastic one. I would concur with that. I would tell you I made 2 mistakes last week. So I was on a business trip in Chicago last week, going to see 2 very, very large B2B suppliers. The first mistake I made last week was that I was rushing the presentation, the preparation of the presentation, and I was cutting, pasting data into the presentation, and I forgot to remove a name of another business while I did it. So when I got to my call, my customer said, "Hey, who's R.R. Donnelly?" And I said, "Oh man, you caught me. That's my call for tomorrow." So we all make mistakes. I mean, I've been at this a long time. I've put my foot in it many times. I like to use the term embrace the messy, because you will get messy, no doubt, in sales. You will say dumb things, you will trip over yourself, but own it. The second mistake I made last week was that I was on Eastern time and I had set an appointment in Central time. And I got to the client's office at 9:07 for what I thought was a 10 o'clock appointment. In fact, it was a 9 o'clock appointment. Thank God I have a well-respected brand, and the guy was very forgiving. But, so we all make mistakes. I genuinely thought it was a 10 a.m. start. It was a 9 o'clock start. No harm, no foul. I explained what I thought, and the gentleman said, "This is not an issue. We're going to be meeting half the day anyway. A couple of minutes doesn't really make any difference." So don't worry about it. It doesn't necessarily torpedo your sale every time, but owning it and embracing it is probably the most important thing. We all make mistakes.
I agree. I would say owning it too. Owning is a big thing, especially when you're new in a business. You're going to make mistakes. Like Roger said, it happens all the time. Own it, learn from it, and move on. But don't ever try and, say, "Oh, it wasn't me," or "It was someone else's problem." It was your problem. You made a mistake. Own it and move on.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Lillian. I'm a junior here at Bentley, studying in management. I was wondering, actually today in class, we talked about adaptive selling. I was wondering if you could tell us about a time where you had to kind of step outside of your comfort zone and have to adapt in your role.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that term. I would say, there's a lot of terms that are applied to selling. I would say to you that the most basic discipline that I try and apply to my selling process is common sense. So today, when we go see businesses, there's a lot going on. We have a customer, we have a product, we're trying to sell in our product, but that customer has a business that they're running 365, 24 hours a day, very involved. And we jettison into that for a short period of time to try and get their attention to pitch what it is we're doing. And I think what I've learned over my career is to be cognizant of, what that situation is like in every single case. To assume that they're not distracted by other things is erroneous. People are very easily distracted. If we don't captivate that attention very quickly in the process, we can lose that prospect as we go forward our pitch. But I think having that common sense to know and to be able to read, and I think Zev probably takes you guys through this in your process of learning selling, is to be able to read the room, to be able to read what it is your prospect is telling you through verbal and non-verbal cues. Prospects won't always tell you, my foot hurts, but you'll see them do things that will indicate that there is something wrong. The way they sit, the way they look, the way they react, the way they breathe. These are all things that as salespeople, we have to be able to situationally assess and use to our advantage to move our sales process forward. Now, this is something you really don't learn out of a book. You can be heightened to the awareness of it out of the book, but the more you get in front of customers and colleagues and other folks in business, you will see this and you'll be able to adapt to it. So that's how I handle that.
One tip someone taught me real early in the business, and I don't know if this is necessarily addressing the question you asked, but when you sit across the table from someone, you mirror their body language, right? So if they're leaning in like this, you lean in like that. If they're leaning back, you lean back. And I don't know if that's something you still teach, but that was something somebody told me real early on, and it was just really something easy that didn't take a lot for me to remember, and I did. So it's just something to keep in mind, mirroring body language.
It's a great point. Great point. Yeah. I couldn't emphasize that enough. The last thing I would say on that is presence. We're in a very fast-paced society today. Everyone has a cell phone. We go into sales calls, we forget to turn it off. The cell phone, buzzes. We look at it. Presence is a very, very key thing. If your customer doesn't think that they have your undivided attention, that can be difficult. So, these are things we have to learn as we go on. Turn off the cell phone, put it in your bag. Don't look at it. Don't take it out. Because if you do, what does that say about the interaction with the individual you're having? It's saying, hey, you're not that important. Somebody's buzzing me and I'm looking at my phone to figure out who it is. So a lot of situational things like that. But yeah, mirroring, a great one. I love that.
Thank you.
Hi, Danene. Hi, Roger. My name is Emma Kinsella. I'm a senior management major here at Bentley. And my question was, a little earlier in class, we were talking about having a positive mindset going into a sale and just in sales in general. I was wondering, what's your mindset going into a sale personally? How has it changed over your career? And also, how do you deal with failure?
Yeah, so I guess for me, it's hard for me to think of myself as a salesperson. I'm an introvert. It takes me a long time to feel comfortable with people. So it was really important for me to hype myself up before I went into an appointment. So I would stand up, I would turn on a song, I'd dance around. I would just kind of do the things that made me feel comfortable. And then we have this term when we first started, act as if, right? Act as if you are the most successful person in the world and they are so lucky to be doing business with you, right? And so just kind of, and then portray that on to the person that you're selling to. I would say nothing really changes over time, right? I still get nervous to go sit down in front of a prospect. That's very normal for me to feel uncomfortable. I still have to, you know, say nice things to myself, turn on music I like. That's a big one for me is music. It gets a little bit easier, but I'm still kind of doing the same things I did when I was starting. Obviously, I have a little bit more confidence. I'm able to tell people a lot more about my successes in business and why they would want to do business with me, but the key principles are still the same.
Wow, what great advice, guy. Yeah, I find it hard to top that. That's you know, the whole aspect of having confidence is key. Confidence sells. So being able to do that. You asked about mindset. You know, I would tell you, even this week I went again on this business trip to Chicago. I was selling a couple of deals. And the reason I was there was because somebody had indicated to us that the account was going to cancel their acceptance of Visa. And that made us a little nervous, as you can imagine. It was a couple $100 million. You know, we didn't want to lose that revenue. And I had that going in my mind, but I also said to myself, listen, you need to keep an open mind here because you don't know anything. You've never met these people before. And keeping an open mind is really, really important because you don't know what your prospect is going to say, what curve they're going to pitch you. The reality is the business I was going to see had no interest in canceling Visa. I don't know where this stemmed from or it came from, but whoever got the information, it was wrong. And they were very pro our network and completely different. Zev knows me, I'm a big hockey guy, and I would tell you that the hockey analogy I will give you is that a goaltender in hockey must have a short memory. If he lets in 4 or 5 goals tonight and he's playing tomorrow night's a new night. Forget about it, move on. You got to have a short memory in sales. And I will tell you, the other thing people say is don't take it personally. I kind of disagree with that a little bit in that I think when you do take it personal, it kind of shocks you into reality a little bit better. You know, if I went around and I didn't care about every sale I didn't get, I wouldn't really be very good at what I did. So I do care. It hurts me a little bit because I didn't get a sale. Therefore, I got to self-analyze myself to figure out why that didn't happen. So a short memory, but I would tell you, take it personal.
I love the idea of a short memory. We used to go next, right? Like just move on to the next one.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Roger. I'm Miles. I'm a junior here at Bentley, marketing major. Question for both of you guys is, about 2 weeks ago, we had a speaker in here called, his name was Sal, and he taught us, and Zev taught us this, you know, sell yourself. What makes you valuable? Why should they pick you? So with 2 massive companies that you guys work at, how do you help the customer pick you guys since the company is so broad and big that you want to make the customer feels important and feels like they're selected over other customers, just like make them feel secure at 2 large companies that you guys work at?
Sure. So this is a little different. Probably my answer is going to be a little bit different than Roger's because we're selling 2 different things. I'm essentially selling myself, right? So Morgan Stanley, you're right, is a huge business, a huge company. And within Morgan Stanley, you have all these different parts of it, right? You have investment banking, you know, I'm on the wealth management side, and there's 1 million financial advisors in Boston, you know, across the country. And so the way that we get our clients is through referrals, right? So you have to be invited into our practice, and you have to have been referred to us by someone that we already work with. And so we don't do a lot of talking, we do a lot of listening. So if you come in and meet with me and you are, you know, interviewing me, or you're, you know, we're meeting each other for the first time, I have a very defined process that the first time you sit down with me, I'm going to tell you the 6 different steps of my process. So you have a clear expectation of how the process is going to work. What's the next step after this step? And during that first meeting, and as well as, you know, sharing our process, I ask people 61 different questions about their goals, their values, the important relationships in their lives, their interests, how they like to work with other professionals. And then the last thing I do is ask them about the money. And so what you'll notice is when you're asking someone 61 questions, you're probably talking 10% of the time and they're talking 90% of the time. And they're feeling like you're really listening to them and you're really hearing them. And so that's kind of the way that I go about it, is I spend more time listening, understanding, and then kind of repeating back to them what I've heard, because then in the second meeting, I put together this really cool map. We call it like a mind map of everything they told us on a visual kind of thing that we can show them. So we bring it up on a big screen like this, and we're like, this is what we heard you tell us. What do we have wrong? What are we missing? Do we understand you? And it's just a really unique process. But again, I'm not really selling anything. I'm just listening to what's important to them and telling them maybe how we can fill the gap in their lives. But it's a lot of listening for us. We lost you, Roger. We can't hear you anymore.
Got it. Sorry about that. Morgan Stanley, wonderful brand. You know, amazing listening skills needed to be in that business. Ours is a little different. We're a commodity. So we're selling, you know, repeat it, it's wash and rinse over and over again. Here's what I would tell you. Prospects talk to people they like, but they buy from people they trust. It's very key. With the financial advisor, it's really important, I can imagine, to listen to learn. We tend as salespeople, and I'm not saying financial advisors, but more people like me, we listen to respond. And that is a difficult thing. We should be listening to understand. You know, the average human can talk about 125 words per minute, but we can listen to over 600. Therefore, our brains wander in the sales process. So we're sitting in front of somebody, they're talking to us, and our mental capability is to digest much more than is being said. So what does our brain do? It wanders. So this is something we have to work at really hard to compartmentalize what we're doing in the sales process. We've got to focus really hard. And that takes skill, that takes practice. And I, quite frankly, have been challenged with that over my career, because I have for a long time, I have listened to respond. I had so much information that I just wanted to dump on you. You know, there's an old adage in sales, Zed's probably said this, show up and throw up. And you just want to get it all out there. And sometimes that's not the best solution. Sometimes the best salespeople say very little because they're listening to what the needs are, and then they can laser focus in on what it is that that customer actually wants. And they can be much more effective. So I probably have a lot to learn in this area, but I analyze it. I look at it. I'm critical of myself in the process, you know, when I'm out there. So that's what I would say. But hey, listen, you got to form that relationship. I know Zeb's a big relationship guy. You know, if you're not in there and you're not figuring out what's important to them, what they like, establishing credibility, yeah, it's going nowhere.
All right, thank you.
I just want to say real quick and reiterate one of the lines that Roger said just now. And just think about it from our discussion earlier tonight. Think about it from a sales perspective, effective selling perspective, right? People buy from people they trust. They're going to waste time talking to people that they like. There's a huge distinction there in that quote that Roger said last semester when he said that. It was a complete aha moment from a relationship perspective. Our goal over the 14 weeks that we're together is to get you guys to think about how you get your customers to love you, to trust you, and not put you in that like zone, because you won't make the business or the sale, right? An unbelievable quote, and I just wanted to call that out, Roger. It is some of the best advice that you can give these students. It's a masterclass as far as what effective selling is all about. All right? Thank you.
Hey, Roger. I have a question for both of you guys. So say there's a 21, 22-year-old kid coming out of college, right? What are some of the key pieces of advice you would give to them entering the workforce?
Go ahead, Roger. You let me go first, people.
Say the question again. What are some of the key pieces of advice I would
Give a new salesperson, essentially?
Wow. Yeah, I say this to my kids. I have a 27-year-old and a 23-year-old. So you can imagine being in my house. Yeah, I would say the number one thing that I tell people today is be present. Be present. You know, it's really hard out there. We're distracted today by so many things. If you're present, then you will have it conquered many things, but you will develop the confidence to be successful. Confidence sells. Nobody wants to buy from somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. You know, if you're asked a question and you don't know the answer and it takes you 2 weeks to get back to them, and you've got competitors that are nipping at your heels and are in there and talking to your clients when you should be, you will fail. So you need to be present, you need to learn, you need to be an expert in what it is you do. You need to outwork your opponents. Again, I'm a big hockey guy. I follow Bentley University. You guys have a good program up there. I know a couple of kids play on the team. And you know what? I know what they instill in those kids. They have to outwork their opponent. You may not be as skilled, but if you outwork them and you do the basics well, then you're in the driver's seat. But you know, showing up and you're not really sure and you don't really know, and you know, I'm amazed sometimes. I work in the very specialized end of Visa, which is in the business to business end. So I'm dealing with businesses every day that have a choice over card as a form of payment. They could take ACH, they could take wire, they could take check. So yeah, sure, I know the Visa business, but I know how much check costs. I know how much ACH costs. I know what money costs on the street today. That's the level of detail you have to get. You got to look at your business in a holistic way and become that Zen master of it. And when you do, then guess what? You will succeed.
I'll reiterate a few things Roger said. He said, be present. And for me, the first thing I thought of when you said, give, you know, what's some advice, I'd say, put the phone down. Right. So I think this was said earlier in class too, at some point, put the phone in your bag. Don't look at it, silence it. Especially with kids your age, I know you've grown up, you don't know any differently, but I will not hire someone if they have a phone out while I'm interviewing them. And if I'm in a unique position where I'm in sales, but then people are selling to me on a daily basis as well. And if somebody is trying to sell me something and their phone is ringing, or God forbid they take a call, the meeting's over. So be present and put the phone down. I would say educate yourself, right? So I don't know, does anybody take public transportation anymore? But when I first started working, I used to take a bus into Boston and a bus home from Boston every day. And during those hours, I would be reading. I'd be reading the Wall Street Journal. I'd be reading Barron's. So I would just be learning about the markets. I'd be learning about products. So educating yourself, but not during work hours. That's after work hours. I would say, Roger said this, outwork everyone. So when I started in the business, I worked 7 days a week. I was in the office at 8 o'clock and I worked till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. I worked Saturday mornings from 8 till noon, and I worked Sunday afternoons from 5 to 8 or 5 to 9, I forget. And it was when the Patriots, like this was back in like 2000 when the Patriots were like first grade, and I would be calling during Patriots games and people would be screaming at me and I would just hang up and call the next person. But in the beginning, relentless with your hours. And work smarter, not harder, right? So I was always organized. I'd start my day with a to-do list. And so I would know what I had to do during the day. So work smarter, not harder. And seek out advice from older people. People want to be helpful, right? Roger's here sharing. I mean, he has years and years of experience and knowledge. He's obviously very successful. He's happy to help out Zev's class. I'm happy to come here and answer questions. People want to be helpful. So put yourself out there, walk, 3 doors down to the office, someone that you know is successful, and say, hey, one or two things you can tell me about the business that really set you apart? Some of my ideas. I could go on and on about that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
last one I would have said too is write stuff down. You said about making a list. That is so key. We're so taxed for time and everything today. I have a little book. I write everything in the book because I can't possibly remember every conversation with everybody. So write stuff down. And, I know that's not popular today. I mean, I have this challenge with my younger son. And I say to him, write stuff down. And then he'll forget it. And I say, did you write it down? And he'll say, no. And I'll say, well, if you had written it down, you would have checked it off the list. It sounds bogus. It sounds old, but you know, it just covers off on that. So basics well.
I agree with that. I carry a notebook around, like Roger said, about that size, and it goes with me everywhere. And that way, if I'm, today I had a second conversation with someone, and so before the call, like I would flip back on my notes 2 weeks ago to our first conversation, so I knew everything we had talked about. I knew everybody's names, you know. Anyways.
That's so impressive to see that. When a salesperson does that, pulls out that book, goes back through it, and says, hey, Mr. Prospect, you were with me 2 weeks ago, and this is what we discussed. What is that saying to the prospect? That's saying, I care, you're important. Man, that closes the business for me right there. That's gold right there you just heard.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Great question.
Hey, Roger, hey, Denise. I just have a question for Roger, if that's okay.
Totally
I love the
offended.
book though, yeah.
You like my house?
Yeah, my mom has a similar one.
Great, I'm probably older than you. Good.
Yeah, so I noticed you mentioned that you had like a little like startup company like in between jobs. I was just wondering what you guys did, like what was it, like something related to the industry, or like was it just something you did for fun?
Yeah, so good question. I left Amex in January of 2020. And about 7 hours after I left, I started a business. And I knew there was a market. There was no one in my industry who was selling, training sellers to sell in the B2B space. So Visa, MasterCard sellers typically sell business to consumer accounts. They don't sell enough in the B2B space. So we started a company, we created a curriculum for training people in that space. And within about 45 days, we had our first customer, which happened to be Visa. And we trained about 300 organizations in the space of a year and a half. And it's probably the primary reason that I'm now at Visa, because the curriculum that I developed, Visa have adopted that now. So we came to an arrangement. We still run that business on a daily basis. It still functions, but it was very related to the business. You'll hear people say, do what you're passionate about. Well, I will poo-poo that thought for you. Don't do what you're passionate about. Do what you're good at. Because if I was passionate, I'd be flying airplanes and going to hockey games every night, and I'd be broke. But I'm pretty good at selling shit, so that's what I did. That's just my own advice.
Yeah, all right. Thank you guys for coming in.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Hi, Danene. Hi, Roger. I'm Pat. I'm a senior professional sales major. Both of you have touched on preparation and its importance, which I think is a major key that we've been learning in this class. I would say, like, could you like put it into like a tier list, or like the most like prioritized, types of information that you're looking for when you're preparing?
Sure, I'll go first, Roger.
Yeah.
So for me, it's, I keep the notebook, like I said, and then we have a database. So we're able to pull up client accounts, and then all of the notes that are in my notebook actually go in the online database as well, so that anyone on our team can pull them up at any time. So for me, it's what I said before. I go back and I look at previous conversations. So what did we talk about last appointment? Did I do the things I said I was gonna do? Right? Or is there anything outstanding? Did the client do the things they said that they were gonna do? Is there anything outstanding there? And then I will have one of my assistants run reports on the portfolios, and together we'll kind of see what pages we want to include, what we don't want to include. We'll pull together an agenda for the client. Yeah, so I think that's kind of what our prep looks like for that type of meeting, for, like a client service meeting. Yeah.
Roger?
Yeah, I'm a little bit different. I manage 65 of the largest B2B suppliers in North America. So, places like Dell, places like Microsoft, ABC Supply, all sorts of businesses. So my goal at the beginning of the year, when I was handed this list, was that if anyone in the C-suite of Visa came to me and said, hey, can you tell me about this account? I could tell them where they went to the bathroom last. Now, that may sound a little crazy, but I want to know absolutely everything about that count. Who's the CEO? What are their gross revenues? What's their profit margin? Do they take card? How much card did they do? Who's it with? Who's their all industry centric things? Who their processor is? And when I go on the first call, I absolutely bring nothing because I want to know as much information about the account as possible. But then the first meeting is to learn everything that I don't know. So I'll sit down with them and I'll ask, just like 65 questions, everything that they do. Information is key in sales. Selling becomes very, very easy when you identify the pain point and you apply the solution. And we don't usually identify the pain point because we're too busy pitching the product that we don't know whether they need or not. And when we find that pain point, then we can apply that medicine in the form of our product and shorten the sales cycle. So dummying up and asking more questions early on actually shortens the sales cycle. So, that's my prep. Second calls are different. If they give me a specific need, then obviously I'm coming back and I'm applying those reports and everything that we have that will sell the product.
Thank you both.
Hi, Danene. Hi, Roger. Sorry. My name's Hannah Danene. I'm a senior marketing major. This question was for you, Roger. We had a guest speaker in the beginning of the semester say, be passionate or be miserable. And my question for you was going to be, you kind of touched upon the fact that you're in a business that it's kind of wash and rinse. It's the same thing every day. And so how to stay passionate, but if passion isn't your driver, then what makes you want to get up and continue to do what you do every day?
Yeah, great question. I don't want you to think that I'm not passionate about what I do. I am, but let me go back because this is a dangerous kind of thing that I'm going to say here. I don't know how Zeb feels about this, but so prior to being in sales, I aspired to be a commercial airline pilot. That's what I wanted to do. And halfway through that battle, I discovered, wow, this was a really long road. And 3 airlines went out of business the year that I was taking my commercial ticket, Pan Am, Eastern, Midway. So wasn't going to happen. So I got into sales. And I found out that I was pretty good at it. I had a personality, which I think is an essential ingredient for that. But I'm going to tell you that the real reason I got into sales, and this may sound crass and crude, was because I wanted to make a lot of money. And I don't think you should be afraid to say that or feel that. Sales is a very, very lucrative field, depending on what product you sell. Imagine you work for Boeing Airlines and you sell 100 jetliners to an airline. Wow, you make a lot of money. Or you sell pharmaceuticals or whatever it is. You can make a lot of money. We shouldn't be bashful about that. So lots of times I talk to salespeople and I say to them, why did you get into sales? And they give me these answers like, well, because I'm a people person and I like to talk to people. And I go, that's not really true, is it? And they say, no, well, I thought that's what you wanted to hear. So I would tell you that I got into this because I wanted the independence of doing what I was good at and then receiving the remuneration as a result of it. And, finishing first in your sales organization, not to be sniffed at. If you're winning awards and you're collecting checks, that's a good thing. You're successful. And others want to be more like you than you can imagine. And as long as you wear it and you're humble about it, then this is a career that is absolutely phenomenal. Listen, there are salespeople in the organizations that I work in that make more than people you could ever imagine. This is very, very lucrative. But, it also is a high risk, high reward proposition. Because if you come into this and you're half baked and you're not ready and you're not prepared, and a lot of things we talked about tonight, it's a high risk, high reward endeavor. So the risk is that you don't sell and you won't be selling. So you have to make sure that when you're in this with 2 feet and you're in it to win. So I don't know if that answers your question, but Zev, I go all over the place. I apologize, man.
You're flying a plane.
Roger,
Yeah, man.
I love that you said that because that's exactly what I was going to say too. I know the question wasn't asked to me, but I was going to say, let's be honest, everyone, we're in sales to make money.
Sure.
That's really number one.
100%. I mean, you know, listen, I learned to fly the Airbus A320 about 2 years ago. Now that's an expensive proposition. You know what fuels that? Sales. So I couldn't have done that, you know, if I was working at McDonald's flipping burgers. That would not have happened.
So thank you.
Hi, thank you both for coming in tonight. I'm Ashi. I'm a senior here majoring in marketing. Today we talked a lot about setting goals for ourselves and SMART goals. So I kind of wanted to know how you both kind of go on to set goals for yourself, whether that's on a daily basis or more long-term, and kind of the steps you take to achieve them.
Yeah, so I did a lot of goal setting early in my career. I had goals for that year, right? So it was always for me, it was how much, you know, how many new, so actually we'd set it like this. We'd say, all right, how many calls do we need to make per day? How many meetings does that equate to per week? What is my close rate? Okay, so I need to make 150 dials to set 12 appointments. I'll close 4 of those appointments. Each, you know, 4 appointments generate X amount of revenue, and you kind of do it like that. So I had daily goals, I had weekly goals, and then I had like a 5-year and a 10-year plan. I'm at the point in my career now where I don't really have goals, honestly. You know, I guess my goals are just to serve my clients and do the best job for them that I can. But I think that early in your career, it's really important to start each day knowing what you want to do that day and why, right? Back into your numbers. I need to, in order to make $5,000 a week, I need to sell 2 people. Well, in order to sell 2 people, I need to have 6 meetings. And in order to get 6 meetings, I need to make 100 phone calls. Those numbers were ridiculous. I have no idea. I just pulled them out of my ass. But that's the idea. You have to have really clear goals, especially early on.
But that's gold. You're hearing gold, people. That is the structure in that is just priceless, because early on in your sales career, you will do that. You will have structure. You will have to figure out, you know, someone gives you $1 million goal and you're selling $100 product. You got to be able to do the math. How many calls do I need to make to sell this thing to so many people? There's basic math there that you have to do. You're not going to call on one individual if the product costs $100 and make your goal. I would agree, though, as I got later in my career, my goals used to be so large, you know, $300, $400, $500 million a year, that if I actually thought about it, I'd probably crack up. So I never really thought about it. I just adapted more the advice you were given there to say, listen, if I go out and I do a good job every day, if I do the blocking and tackling consistently, then the business will come at me. And that pretty much panned out. But, you know, you in any corporate environment, you are going to have these goals set. You will scratch your head sometimes. You know, you will be at odds whether they meet your objective or the company's objective and what they are. But you got to play the game. You got to go down those roads and have structure to it. If you have structure, then guess what? It will all fall into place. You just can't go at it willy-nilly and expect it to all happen. The other thing too is you have to set your mindset. We talked a little bit about, somebody asked a question before about mindset. You know, there's 2 types of people in this world. There's emotional people and there are factual people. The sellers who are less emotional and more factual are tending to be more successful, because you don't think about those crazy ups and downs in mood. You're just very matter of fact about what goes on. That's just my own personal advice here. You know, have your facts, be ready, be able to deliver them. I'm so impressed, Zev, everybody that comes up here, you know, is buttoned up and together. That's not normal. What I'm seeing here tonight in this room is not typically what I do this at other colleges, is not typically normal. And you guys need to translate this out into the real world. And if you do, you're going to have tremendous success.
Oh, wait, Nick Grodko's up next. So let's wait with that comment.
Okay, Nick, it's your turn.
Hi guys, I'm Nick. I've got a couple questions for Roger. I'm a junior on the hockey team here. I'm a goalie, so actually your analogy resonated perfectly with me. My first question to you is, what's your hockey background?
So tell Cole Kotze that I said hello.
He's too scared to talk to you, don't worry.
Get up there, would you show your face? Come on.
Is Cole in the room? Look at Cole. Hey, Cole, what's up, man?
Hey Roger, how you doing?
Good. So Cole knows me. I know his dad, Michael. So we come from the South Florida hockey community. Didn't know Cole would be in the room tonight. My hockey background, my kids played. I had a kid played club at BU. I had a kid played club at UNH. And my oldest son is a referee in the NHL. So I get to go to games and bug him every now and again. Yesterday I was over in Tampa Bay, saw him do Tampa, Montreal, or Saturday night. He was Tampa, Montreal. So I get to go to a lot of stuff like that, and just have a huge interest in the game. Coach high school for 10 years, but never to the level that you guys are at there at Bentley. So don't know. I thought you guys are Hockey East. I heard BU won Hockey East this year, right?
We're not Hockey East.
No, you're ECAC, are you? What division? Atlantic Hockey.
Yeah.
So if you want a guy who is an incredible seller, Cole Kotze's dad, Michael, is one of the best businessmen that I've ever seen. He's an incredible dude. He's in the mortgage business, and he rocks it day in, day out. So
Gotta get him out here, so. Did your son ref in the USHL for a little bit?
yeah, so like players, referees go into the officials development program. So you have national development team program for players. So when he graduated UNH, he was sent out to Minneapolis his first season. He ref Cole there, I think, in season 2 when he did NA and first year, USHL second year, then he did NCAA and Coast. Then he went to the AHL, then he was hired into a 40-40. So now he's full-time. So that was the progression. It took him he's 27. It took him about almost 5 years.
Very nice. Well, we both me and Cole played in the USHL, so we definitely had him for a couple of our games.
Yeah, Cole, you guys played at Omaha, right? Cole, you played in Omaha.
You played in Omaha, I played in Green Bay.
Yeah, Taryn was skating with your brother the other night, Cole, down at the rink by the ocean. I heard that. See, it's a very small world. You can't do anything in hockey, but everybody knows.
Right. And then I just have one more serious question, I guess. How'd you meet Zev, and why is that important to sales?
Oh, wow. So Taryn was playing a game at BU at Walter Brown, and the game was delayed for some reason because I think Zev's kids were out on the ice. And I don't know why, but I was down underneath, and typical Zev fashion, I walked by him and Zev started a conversation with me. Simple as that. And we started to talk back and forth, and he told me, Zev gave me his elevator pitch underneath Walter Brown in 30 seconds. And I was like, this dude is off the charts. I got to know him. I said, I'll hook up with you on LinkedIn when I get home. I gave him, we contacted on LinkedIn, and it's been a bromance ever since. So that's how stuff happens.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Good luck to your son as well.
All right, good luck. Is your season concluded, or are you guys still playing?
Yeah, it's over now. So
it's over. So Cole, you'll be back slumming it in South Florida next week or in a little bit, right?
I was just there, so I'm back. Not really too happy about it though. So.
All right, good. Well, you got another year. You're a junior, right?
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, hey, listen, it doesn't end there. Congratulations to you, man. You're doing great.
I have one question though for both you guys. Something I'm trying to work on, but how do you stay patient?
Ooh.
I don't. I'm a super impatient person. Yeah, I'm not patient.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I don't stay patient. My son was wicked excited to see you today. You were like creeping outside of his house earlier.
Oh.
And I pulled up the girl.
Oh,
And my son was right, he's going, that's Cole. He signed a hockey stick for me.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Were you driving a car?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's hilarious.
So anyway, I'm a really impatient person.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. Sorry.
Impatience is good. I mean, it's just how you channel it. I don't know a patient salesperson on the planet. I mean, their legs are hopping underneath the desk. They're anxious to get moving business. It's how you come across to your client that's really important. Do you look impatient? Do you sound impatient? You can be impatient, but you can channel that, for the good. So I think impatience is important in sales because it applies urgency to the sales process, which is very important. It's also important in the sales process at points to create constructive tension. To think that all sales processes are kumbaya is a misnomer. There are sales processes where your clients will drag their feet and you've got to push them along in a very, very, efficient manner. And that may create tension, but if you've developed that relationship and they trust you, there's elasticity there that allows for that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming too.
All right. Good to see you, Cole.
Good to see you.
Hi, thank you guys so much for coming in. My name is Mackenzie. You both obviously have very successful careers, and I would love to know if you could reflect on when you first started off, what's the one piece of advice or something that you could tell your younger self right when you got into the game of sales?
15% in 401k from day one.
He's right, actually. That's a great piece of advice. And that's what I tell everybody young people that I meet that are just starting at Morgan Stanley or people that I know that are entering the workforce. I say I have 2 regrets in life, and one of them is that I waited 2 years to start my 401k, and that may not seem like a long time, but time value of money. It's actually really excellent advice, Roger.
Yeah, I started day one at American Express, and I met an older gentleman, and his advice to me was, hey, I'm going to help you invest your money in 401k. And I said, oh man, I can't afford that. I just bought a house. I have a mortgage. He said, you can't afford not to. And in actual fact, the strange thing, and again, I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm probably going to be wrong with this, but the lowering of your taxable income by putting 15% in, I actually was very little difference between my net without putting the money in and my net by putting the money in. So yeah, here's the other thing I would say to you as a salesperson. Investing money very quickly when you make money and managing it well, very important. Because if you're a salesperson and you're under financial pressure, then you will do and say things that are not good. Get that mortgage out of the way. If you make big checks, don't buy Maseratis, pay down your mortgage, pay the safe bets. These are stupid things to be talking about to budding salespeople. But I will tell you, those are the things that allowed me to have the freedom to then go on and do what I needed to do in sales without being encumbered.
Great, thank you guys so much.
Last question.
Hey guys, my name is Andrew. I'm a senior econ major here. I'm sorry.
I said, hi, Andrew.
Nice to meet you. So question for both of you guys, just a fun one to end the day. What do you like to spend your money on?
It might be obvious, accessories, shoes.
I'm a big watch guy, so I get it. Yeah.
Travel is probably the biggest thing I spend money on is travel.
Do you ever go to Disney a lot?
Hell no.
Hell no? All right, good.
I took my kids once.
Yeah.
I said one and done. I spent a ton of money
Yeah.
and did it the right way, and I will never go again.
There, it's not worth it. Yeah.
Don't have a timeshare anywhere.
Yeah.
Travel's the big one for me, and I would just say probably like shoes and clothes and stuff like that.
Gotcha. What you got there, Roger?
Hey, that's a hard one. I'm not a high maintenance guy, neither is my wife. But I would say we are big ticket people. Yeah, we're big ticket people. Like I told you, I learned to fly the Airbus a couple of years ago, kind of expensive. Just smart travel too, the basics. I don't owe a lot of money, which I'm proud of. I think that's important. And I've always got good financial advice along the way, and be practical. I would tell you, just live your life normally and everything turns out pretty good.
Okay, then I guess one last question. Where do you think that we should go and visit? What's a top place you guys recommend to travel to?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm from Ireland, so if you don't go there, I'm going to be mortally wounded. I came here in '89. Bring lots of money if you like to drink Guinness. hell of a place to go to. Although if you're in Boston, you're halfway there. If you like to swing the sticks, hell of a place to go. The other place I would tell you in Europe that's absolutely phenomenal is the Czech Republic. If you've ever been there, phenomenal place to go see. But again, sales and success in sales will allow you to explore the world, go places that you never even imagined. So, but Ireland for sure.